Hey everyone, welcome back to part 17 of my What's Up in YouTube series where I am answering questions by different people. I think this is a very important series to do a couple times a year. If you want to know how to get into our What's Up groups, one-to-one coaching or webinars, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com for more information. Thank you again, Phil, for all the hard work you do behind the scenes. Thank you to everyone who's been commenting, making the YouTube channel what it is. It's been growing and growing. When I first joined, there was 3,000 subs, and we're closing in soon on 25,000. So, it's a very exciting time and spreading correct information on not just OCD, but everything in the mental health sphere, which unfortunately, in well-intentioned people, there's a ton of really bad information. So, question number one, this person was just putting points to cover, so I'll give some detail on each one. So, chronic guilt is number one. Before I go any further, very important to watch Rob's, Sam's, Gemma Jade's, their videos specifically with their views on chronic guilt, because that was one of the main things they had. Be careful with how much you're watching. Maybe 3 to 5 a week is good for now. If you're watching 2-3 videos a day, it's usually compulsive. So chronic guilt only stems from one thing and one thing only. It's not outside of you in the way that people think. It's not a being that's attached to you like a Dementor from Harry Potter sucking the life out of you, even though it feels like that when you're walking around. It's stemming from conditional self-acceptance, also known as self-esteem, the world's biggest emotional wrecker, you could say, like a home wrecker. You want to know a real home wrecker? Self-esteem. Self-esteem is not actually real as a long-term value. Let me give you a basic example of self-esteem. In order to feel good about myself, I must have a six-pack. Nothing wrong with wanting a six-pack, but it's only a piece of you. I'll give you another example. In order to not be guilty, I must know that I didn't do that. Well, that's not true, because there's a lot of people out there that did do it, they don't have guilt. Yeah, but what if that means I'm a sociopath? Unconditional acceptance. What if it means I'm a psychopath? Unconditional acceptance. What if it means I can lose control? Unconditional acceptance. So, chronic guilt will have to be worn. My videos on hyper-awareness can be very helpful for this. The person has to get used to feeling the chronic guilt and bringing it everywhere, which means building their habits, their life structure, everything, while chronic guilt is just trailing behind them. Like you're walking to the grocery store. Your wife is behind you, or your partner pushing the kid in the stroller. You're looking at different pastas. The kid, do I want penne? Do I want spaghetti? What do I want? How you doing? Vodka sauce, bada bing. As the kid's screaming. That's how it goes. It has to come everywhere. You're going to have to get comfortable doing everything with chronic guilt. Number two, accepting of having the condition. This takes a while. OCD is a very hard disorder. It's not rocket science, as Rob says, but it takes a lot more depth and nuance than most people want to give it credit to. So it's going to take time to accept, A, you didn't choose to have OCD, B, life is not inherently fair, and C, even though it's very tough, it might not be as difficult when it comes to gratitude and perspectives. I'd rather have chronic OCD, chronic POCD, chronic harm OCD, chronic panic attacks for the rest of my life, every second of the day, 5 up out of 10 anxiety forever, instead of being blind or being paralyzed. Now, I'd have to learn to accept that too, but I would hope it would be very, very difficult. But I would rather have OCD over many other things. This is where gratitude and perspective really comes in. Look at them rereading right now after a few years. There's a reason this book is on the reading list. Man's Search for Meaning. There's a couple other good ones too. Happiest Man on Earth by Eddie Jaku, also another Holocaust survivor. The Will to Live, I believe it's called, by Yomi Park, North Korean defector. Just a lot of that helped me a lot. Number 3 is feeling like a fraud. This goes back to chronic guilt in the way of wearing it. You're going to have to continue on with your life even though you're feeling like a fraud. Even though you feel like a fraud and your body's telling you that you're disingenuous, your intrusive thoughts, your images, sensation, urges, you could still do everything in your life. It just doesn't feel as good as you want it to. Sure, it feels like fucking garbage, but you could still do those things. There's a lot of things in my life I do that I don't feel like doing. A lot. But I make it happen because that builds up my grit and frustration tolerance, which makes it easier to change my belief to and adopt, because it's not going to be, like a linear process, as we say. Even if I felt like a fraud, even if my body was screaming that I'm disingenuous, it's still not horrible. It's unfortunate. I wouldn't prefer it, but it's not the end of the world. See how my verbiage is not catastrophic? And it's not fake positivity. It's not jumping up on stage. Whoa, yeah, you can empower yourself. Woo, 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 woo. That's all wishy-washy stuff. It's built off emotions. The people that do this are geniuses when it comes to getting you in the door and having you feel empowered in the moment. Motivation is fucking dog water. Motivation's not inherently bad and inspiration, but that opens the door to the fun house, and then you have to walk into the house and start figuring things out. Oh crap, man! I thought this fun house was going to be fun, and it was called a fun house. Now I got to figure out this puzzle, and that's where people go wrong. Real long-term change does not come from jumping up and down, up on stage and clapping your fingers and clapping your hands. So you going somewhere and hearing people say, you're not a fraud and you're a good person and stuff. And, oh yeah, I knew it, woo! And then that just goes away really quickly. Fear of not being understood by your family. Now, this individual lives in an area of the world where OCD is even more misunderstood than where I live in America, which is still very misunderstood. I've worked with many people where you live, this person when they see it, in surrounding countries, tons of surrounding countries in this area, accepting that reality that no one needs to understand. There's not a universal principle that they must understand or you need them to understand to get better is a critical piece. There's a healthy amount of remorse of, I wish they did understand. It would make it easier, but the chances of them understanding is very low. Some of the other countries around where this individual lives, there's still a lot of oh, you have an evil spirit inside of you and dark magic and you're possessed and all sorts of stuff. It's unfortunate. Good versus bad person. This is a good thing to end it on. I'm going to use some really tough examples. Okay? Evil is a perspective in the eyes of the beholder. There is no universal evil. Now, I think there's plenty of acts and behaviors that would be benefited from consequences such as lengthy jail sentences, life in jail with no parole, understandable. And I do think that behavioral actions are very bad, such as any sort of major bombing or anything like that. But if you get inside the mind of the person that committed the act, they didn't think they were bad. I'll give you an example. I think that every person in Auschwitz would agree that Hitler was evil. Now, acceptance doesn't mean agreement. So you had Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, and then Goebbels, I believe the other one, who's the head of his air division, I believe. And because Himmler was the head of, like I said, the SS, and that's really, I think a lot of them came together to form the gas chambers because it was really affecting the German soldiers by just executing 70,000 people in the town. When they came up with the gas chamber idea, I don't think Hitler saw that as him being a bad person. They saw each other as good people after everything. It's not a historical lesson, but as I said in different videos, from Weimar Germany and the hyperinflation and blaming certain populations, etc., and robbing the wealth from the German people, etc., Aryan race, etc., etc. So they didn't view it like that. They thought they were good. They were almighty. Whether you and I disagree, that's not what they thought. So there's actions that are not good for society more than likely as a whole. But even that is debatable because they didn't see it that way. So it's easy to say they're evil. They are evil. And I'm not saying I disagree with you, but they didn't see it that way. Take a war, take the Civil War, in America, the Revolution. Take when Britain came over, everything with the Boston Tea Party and taxes. They thought with expansion, they thought what they were doing with their territory was amazing. They thought what they were doing was good for England. I don't think the people on the East Coast in Virginia and New York and Massachusetts and all these places, I don't think they thought it was good. In Carolinas, they sure as fuck didn't. They thought it was bad. Get off my land. You go back to where you're from. It's not as, there is no such thing as a good and bad person. It's hype. It sounds good because it's simplistic. I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes. In the movie Lucy, yes, I know it's a movie. It's one of my favorite movies by Scarlett Johansson. There's a scene, if you haven't watched it, where, she has all these powers and she holds up a pen. And the pen splits in two. And she says to Morgan Freeman, the researchers, the neuroscientists, that in this world, we think 1 + 1 = 2, but it's actually never equal 2. There is no 1 + 1 = anything. There's actually an infinite amount of possibilities. We've only quantified certain things to the human experience so we can understand it at the level of human intelligence. That's insane to think about. existentialism, solipsism, etc. So breaking down those things is so important. So I hope you enjoy. Phil at OCDrecovery.com. Hope to hear from you soon. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the support. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.